I was recently gifted 4 beautiful old pocket watches. All 4 of them need to be serviced. They don't appear to be broken or anything. It just seems that all of them are needing to be cleaned and relubricated. And I'm going to start with this Waltham. This was made in the 1920s. It has a beautiful Art Deco design face that I really love. The back of it is pretty nicely engraved too, and it's got a beautifully engraved edges. It's a very thin pocket watch too. It's not very big, so this is an interesting one. It has a fairly modern style movement, so this should be easy to work on. The first thing we need to do with this is we need to get the movement out of the case. And a pocket watch is a little more complicated to get the movement out of than a wristwatch. With most wristwatches, you take the back off and then take the stem out, and the movement drops out the back. Well, on pocket watches, a lot of them are made so that you have to open the back, take out a couple of retaining screws that hold the movement in place, then take the front of the watch off and drop the movement out the front. And so that's what we're going to have to do with this one. And this has a snap-on front, so there's a little lip somewhere on here where the front snaps off. I believe it's right about there. And there's also a lip on the back where you can snap it open, and the back is hinged, but the front is not hinged. The whole front comes off, but the back just opens on a hinge. And the back on this is very tight, and the front of it's very tight too. I couldn't get it open with my fingernails. So when you have a real tight one like this, you have to pop them open with either a case knife or with, in some cases, with a real thin razor blade that you kind of wiggle into the space and pop it open then. And that's what I had to do to open this one. Now, before I take anything else out of it, I want to take the hands off, because the hands need to come off before we take the movement out. And so I need to get the front of it off first. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm looking for the lip on the front that I have to put the blade into. Okay, here it is. It's right there. I don't know if that shows up well in the video or not. Okay, the lip is right here. And so I don't know if I can do this well with it under the camera, but we'll try. Oh yeah, it's going in there. There we go. And off comes the front. The back opens in the same way, except that, like I said, it's hinged. But before I take the back off, I want to remove the hands from the watch. Normally, to take the hands off, I would stick one of these paper dial protectors into in under the hands on the dial. But I can't really do that with this one, because the hands are so close to the dial, it feels like that I'm pushing them upwards with the dial protector, and I don't want to damage them, so I'm going to forego that this time. I'm going to have to just use the plastic that I always use also, and hope that that gives adequate protection. And what we do is we take a piece of thin plastic like this, and then the plastic protects the dial and the hands at the same time when we put the hand levers in. And hopefully these will fit under these hands, because as I said, these are very, very tight to the dial. Oh, there we go. And we just kind of pry upwards until I pop off. And now we also have to get off the second hand, and we're going to do it the same way. These are my small hand levers. I've got a larger set of them that I'm going to use for my other pocket watches, but this watch has rather small hands for a pocket watch, so this smaller size hand levers worked well for it. Under the hands. And then you just kind of pry up and pop it off. Plastic protects the dial and the hands, and it also keeps the hands from flying upward when they pop off the studs. So now that I've got them off, we can use the tweezers then to pick them up and put them into my parts tray. Actually, I decided to just kind of dump the hands into the parts tray since they were laying on the dial. The next thing we need to do is we need to get the case back opened up. And we're going to do it the same way we took the front off. The notch fits up near the top here. See if we can get this off. There's a little bit of damage here where people have done this in the past and we're not very careful with it. I'm trying not to make that any worse by when I stick the blade in here, but I'm getting it. Oh, it's starting to separate there. There we go. Yeah, be careful because I don't want this blade to slip and damage anything else either, but you gotta get it forced in there enough that it pops open there we go. And there is our movement. Now the movement's held in by 2 retaining screws. One of them is right here, and one of them is down here. And you can tell that they're the screws that retain the movement because they kind of slightly overlap the ring around here. You can see how they kind of go outside the movement itself and just slightly overlap that outer ring in the case. And so what they do is they're basically keeping the movement from falling forward out of the case since the front of the case is missing. If we take these 2 screws out, it'll drop right out the front. So that's what we need to do next. And notice that one of the screws, the one that's up here near the crown, has a rounded top and the other has a flat top, so you can remember which one goes where, because this screw is a lot shorter than this one, so you don't want to interchange them. One thing that kind of confused me when I first opened this was a lot of watches have a rounded head screw located near the crown for the purpose of, and the purpose of that screw on a lot of watches is it's a retaining screw for the stem, so when you loosen that, the stem pulls out. This watch doesn't work that way. A lot of pocket watches, the stem is built into the case and does not come out, so there isn't a stem retaining screw. And this screw, when we pull it out and we pull this one out, the movement will drop out, but the stem will remain in the case. And we'll see that as we take it out. Probably not much to see here with my hands in the way, but I'm unscrewing the round-headed screw. Okay, it's out. Lift it out with tweezers. And then we'll get to the other screw. The other screw is a little hard to access because the cover kind of gets in your way when you're trying to reach in there. And it blocks some of the light so you can't see it very well. Go ahead and lift that screw out. And this one you can see is quite a bit longer than the other was. All right, now that we have our retaining screws out, we can lift this up and the movement should drop out through the front. You can see I'm kind of pushing it out there. And there we go. Now you notice I had a cushion too that I had the movement sitting on when I was taking the case screws out because I didn't want to damage the face. I probably should have put the front of the watch case back on, but because the snap's on and it's so difficult to get off, I don't want to have to snap that on and off any more than I have to because of the risk of damaging it with the knife when I'm prying it open. So I just put it on the little cushion here, and that gave it a soft place to sit. Now, the case itself, I'm not gonna snap it back together right now because, as I said, I don't want to have to snap that open and shut any more than I have to. So what I'm gonna do, I want to show you real quick here. You can see inside, I don't know if it shows well in here, but inside the movement is the stem sticking down there. And when I put the movement back in the case, the top of the movement goes in first to engage the stem, and then the bottom it'll go in through the front. The top will go in first to engage the stem, and then the bottom will drop into place. And then we would flip it over and put the retaining screws back in to hold it in place. What I'm going to do with the case is I've got these little bubble wrap baggies that are used for shipping small objects in. I'm going to store them in this. And I'm going to put the front, which has the crystal and the bezel together in one of the bags, and I'm going to put the rest of the case in another. That way that they don't get scratched up, and then I can just set them aside on my workbench until I'm ready to put the watch back together again. So we need to get the dial off next, and I'm not sure how the dial comes off this. I need to look for the dial screws. There should be some retaining screws in the side of the dial. And yeah, I do see those. Looks like there's possibly several of them. Wonder how many dial feet this thing's got. Looks like there's 4 retaining screws. Yeah, there's 4 of them. Wow. And those are tiny. I may need to get a smaller screwdriver to engage those. And I'm taking one of the dial screws out. It turns out these were not as small as I thought they were. I thought I was going to have to use my smallest screwdriver, which is like a 0.6 millimeter. And it turns out that screwdriver was too small for it. So I've got 2 of them out already. This is the 3rd one. Now it's loose all the way. I can lift it out with the tweezers now, or just drop it out in the parts tray. Here's one of the dial screws. These are actually pretty long dial screws, so. Okay, I've got all the dial screws off. It turns out there was only 3 of them, not 4 like I originally thought. I miscounted, so we should be able to just lift the dial right off by prying it up slightly from one of the edges. And there we go. There's the dial. There's the back of the dial. You can see the 3 dial feet that stick into the movement to hold it in place. The front of the dial. And then here's the dial side of the movement.